Third video of today. I just love fucking yapping. So I'm going to talk about another thing that was on my mind. I write these things down, so that's why I have them come to mind immediately. The third thing I want to talk about is the retirement myth. So this is an interesting one because I don't have firsthand experience, so I can't necessarily be one to talk. But from what I've heard, this is like definitely the case, or like I'm pretty fucking sure this is the case. No, I'm like guaranteed sure this is the case. So people often say I want to work so that I can retire, right? Work to retire. So what they're saying is that the work is, something that's not desired and retirement is something that is desired. Retirement is means you're not working, and that's similar to unemployment. Now, if you ask an unemployed person what they do, they a lot of the times will do what they think is fun, okay? Watch shows, watch movies, play games, live with parents, eat parents' food, rent free, whatever. Sounds like the life, right? Sounds great, right? Those unemployed people, if you ask the people that have been in that position for a couple years or so, they aren't happy. They aren't happy at all. You'd be, and that's not what you think they would say, because in your mind you're like, wow, that sounds like the life. That sounds great, right? Don't have to work, get to do whatever you want. But why are they unhappy? That's the question. And you can also relate that to people who retire early. People in their 20s who make a fuck ton of money and they retire early, or even early 30s. If you ask them if they're happy or not retired, they'll be like, yeah, I eventually became unhappy. And so I started working again. Isn't that crazy? You would think that being retired and just doing whatever the fuck you want with the money you want, you'd be happy. But they aren't happy. They're not. Why is this though? Well, my belief and what I think is true is that, and what I think what a lot of people don't want to admit, and what's actually true, is that humans are just simply meant to work. Now, work is seen like as negatively connotated as like a bad thing. Like work, you don't want to work. Work is hard. Work is strenuous. Work is frustrating. But work doesn't have to be put in this negative light. Work could just mean doing something you enjoy that's going to make you a living, right? If I said dream job, that sounds a lot better than work, doesn't it? So I feel like work just gets a negative rep. But us humans, I feel like we're inherently made to work. We're inherently created to live a life where we're always busy, and then we have a time set aside for leisure. They talk about work-life balance, and people don't like work-life balance, but work-life balance is perfect. It's the perfect way to live your life. You work and then you have some leisure time, some enjoyment, you get to live your life how you want it. And you could even be doing that while you're working. Like you could have an equal amount of enjoyment while you're working as not enjoyment. I don't know. My father says like a benchmark is you want to enjoy your job 80% of the time. Even for me, I see that as kind of high. 80% is quite a lot. So I would bump that down to maybe 70% or even less. But at the end of the day, like, it kind of makes sense that working is good and is how we're meant to live. Like, people hate 9 to 5, right? They don't want to work 9 to 5, 9 to 5. I think 9 to 5 is perfectly fine. and it's a good structure too. I've noticed that the happiest I've ever been has always been times where I've been pretty busy for a majority of my day, working of some sort. In high school, you are working. You're a high school student. You're learning and doing homework from 8 in the morning to 3. You go to school, and then you have to study after that. And then when you're done studying, it's already like maybe after dinner, and then you get leisure time. Those were like my happiest days, and like I was busy most of the day. In college, I'm happiest when I get in a groove of going to lecture, rehearsing the material, studying, doing the homework, and then hanging out and having fun later. You're playing games later. The times I've been unhappiest have been times where, ironically, I have too much free time, which is funny because free time is something that people strive to have, but if you have too much of it, it becomes a bad thing. I've recently, most of my quarters, I've had only 3 classes, and a normal course load is 4. The happiest I've been have been in the quarter, so I've had 4 classes. I've been just the right amount of busy, and I've had just the right amount of work, and then I could reward myself by doing other things that I want to do. But when I have 3 classes, and 2 of them are general education classes, so they're like breadth courses, which means they aren't required for my major. They're just like English or biology or something, which aren't related to my major, and are easy A's. It's like equivalent to taking 1.5 classes at that point. Each one's worth like half a class worth of class. I guess that's 2 then, because 1 actual class and then 2 half classes is 2. Yeah, see, I can't even do math right now. But during those quarters, I was the most unhappy because I felt like I had so much free time that I started like getting in my own head and shit. So, and it's funny because I always kind of advocate for a balanced life, and it makes perfect sense in this context. If you have too much free time, then it's unbalanced towards the leisure time, and so you want to have a perfect amount of work and leisure. That way the amount of work makes the leisure that more rewarding, right? Because you have to somewhat work for your leisure. It makes it more rewarding, right? I feel like this can also almost be equated to the analogy of even something as simple as hacking in like a simple game, like a mobile game, video game, anything. I'm sure it's a universal experience for a person to have like some sort of game, online game or something, where they want to improve their player character level, whatever it is, and they find a way to abuse the system and get to the max level, right? But after you get to that peak, like you have everything. When you have everything, you feel like you have nothing. There's nothing left. That's like leisure. People want more leisure, but if you have infinite leisure, then you have no leisure. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if you have infinite free time, then it's like the free time is meaningless now because it's your entire life. It's kind of like the happiness thing where your level of happiness is like dependent on a certain circumstance in your life. If you were always happy, then that would be your normal, and then your normal wouldn't be you being happy. I don't know if that makes sense, but like I think a good example is just like your human level of normality, right? A good example of this is when I started my, I've a personal experience for this. I started a YouTube channel for Valorant. It got pretty big, 95,000 subscribers peak. But as I was gaining views per video, that new view count became my normal. And so that new normal wasn't exciting to me anymore. Near the end of my channel, before it died, I was earning about 5,000 views per video. If I got 5,000 views for a video when I first started, I would have been ecstatic as hell. But that was way below my normal at the time. My normal was 20K views per video. I was getting a quarter of that. So that made me depressed. So again, it's like, you got to have a balance. You always got to have a balance. And there has to be a work to balance out the leisure time in order for you to live a life where you have the right amount of enjoyment. If you're always enjoying life, then eventually that enjoyment becomes less meaningful, right? Yeah, I mean, it got a little confusing at the end, but I bet you guys get what I mean somewhat. Yeah, that's about it. So, see ya.